you guys doing? Welcome aboard the next video. Today I'm going to do something a little different and it's going to be random. So my son has his birthday today, September 7th at the time of this shooting. He's now 4 years old. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have him pick out some games for me and we'll just talk about it. The other day I came up with this concept where why don't I just do videos where I pick some games and just talk about it. So this is going to be a new series on the side of everything else that I'm doing as well. So let's go ahead and get started.
Fatality. Get over here! It's me, Mario! Here we go!
Alright buddy, pick a game. Pick a game. Okay, so the first game my son picked out will be Castlevania. Now, I actually picked this one up just this week. I had Castlevania 2, as you guys already know. I got Castlevania 2 in Video Games Monthly's box subscription from last month. And I got, of course, Castlevania 2. I found Castlevania 1 in the store today, but well, this week, and I also found Castlevania 3 at the same time. Now I couldn't just let those go. So obviously, you know, Castlevania, fantastic franchise. It's an excellent game made by Konami, and I gotta tell you, this game right here, like, I would love to be able to beat this game, and this is definitely one of those games that I would love to actually speedrun. Now, quite a few of us have probably grown up with this game, playing it at some point, had a lot of fun with it. I think Dracula's Curse is the most popular one. The third one is the most popular. I could be wrong because Simon's Quest is also one that a lot of people really love. But if you were to ask me, I think the third one was the best. But that's my opinion. I have a lot of fun with the third one. And it is really interesting because my memory is a little shady on it because I do remember that one of them you go through the whole castle, and when you beat it, the whole level turns upside down and you have to go all the way back down to the exit the castle. So you have to run through it twice. That's really cool and interesting. So the next thing that my son handed me was Streets of Rage 1 and 2. Now I got these a while back. Some of my friends on Facebook already know when I got these. Neither one of them is complete in box. But the Streets of Rage series is actually a really good series. It's just basically it's a side scroller and a brawler. This is definitely one that you would have seen in the arcades back in the 80s and 90s. And even the early 2000s from time to time. These were really fun games and just absolutely amazing. Now, a lot of times, you know, I see games like this and I always think about Die Hard on the arcade. I used to play that a lot as a kid and dumped a lot of quarters in the machine. That was a lot of fun too. Streets of Rage definitely has a really good reputation. The only one I'm missing is the third one. So I'd love to get my hands on the third Streets of Rage, which is the only one I'm missing so far. Now obviously in Streets of Rage you can actually get items and beat the tar out of your opponents with them. And you gotta be pretty careful with what you do. Now these things are actually fairly cheap and easy to get. They could roughly be around worth $20, I think, a piece, somewhere close to that. And they're a lot of fun. I would definitely recommend Streets of Rage. They are a really good series to actually play and collect for yourself and actually have and enjoy with. So the next one my son handed me was Mortal Kombat. Now, this one is complete in box. I also have Mortal Kombat 2 and 3, and it took me a while to get these, but they're all complete in box. All of them have their manuals and the games in them, and they're the original cases. Now, you know, if you go on eBay, you could probably find these are like a dime a dozen. I mean, they usually go for about 10 to 15, maybe $20 a piece, depending on which game it is you're talking about. I remember the first Mortal Kombat was the one that I was after the most, and that's because that's the one that was very controversial back when they were trying to decide whether or not they should put rating systems on video games, because back in this time period, the way games played out, a lot of people back in this time period, there was no sexual stuff in games, for the exception of maybe two or three that were on the Atari 2600 that caused some controversy. But nobody really anticipated that there would be more games like it. And that's when two specific games came in. There was one, I can't remember, but I'll showcase it in the editing section, where it was basically a storytelling game. And then that one was part of the controversy, and then Mortal Kombat's were kind of set over the top because of the blood and guts apparently in the game as well. Now, of course, this Mortal Kombat does have cheat codes to it if you ever get interested. It's actually a lot of fun. Sega Genesis really did a great job with this game. It's rated MA13 because at this time Sega actually had their own rating system. And the first one and second one, the first one's MA13, second one MA17. Because MA13, of course, you had to be 13 years or older in order to play it. And then at the time the controversy went on, and Congress and everything got involved in all this stuff and all this nonsense on a rating system, and a rating system hadn't yet been put in place. So when they made Mortal Kombat 2, to avoid the controversy, they put MA17 on it. And of course, MA17 standing for 17 and older. Now, of course, parents would still buy the games without realizing the graphic nature of these games. And that was pretty funny to say that, because the boxes themselves have the label big enough for you to see that it's not meant for children. And it wasn't until Mortal Kombat 3 when they finally had the rating system and they started putting M for mature on the boxes. Now, I can get more into detail with that, but the YouTuber Gaming Historian has already done a video explaining the rating system, how it was born, what all went into that, because there was this big old stink between Sega and Nintendo. It was really interesting. But yeah, so I have Mortal Kombat 1, 2, and 3. And I think there's only one Mortal Kombat left I don't have on the Sega. But I'll have to try and remember if that's correct or not. So let's go ahead and move on to the next one. So the next one that I'm going to talk about is Star Wars The Empire Strikes Back on the Atari 2600. Now, this one is actually complete in box. If you've never seen a complete in box Atari 2600 game, this is what this specific one looks like. Now, some of you might be wondering why I would even bother getting this one complete in box, and I actually have a few reasons. I actually got this one for about $15, which is fantastic, a really good deal. There is wear and tear, of course. I mean, it's really old. But the thing about this game is that it's the very first Star Wars game that was ever created, and it was made in 1982. Now, this game was very basic. It was very basic. You basically just flew in a pattern trying not to get shot down by the AT-ATs, or as what they're properly called, AT-ATs. You will never hear me call them AT-ATs. I've been calling them AT-ATs since I was a kid. I'm not going to change that. But yeah, this was the first Star Wars game they ever created, and it was on the Atari 2600. This was a game I really wanted to have in my collection. I really saw this one, I was like, I gotta have that one. If I'm going to have a complete in box for the Atari 2600, that would be the one for me. Because when it comes to the older systems, I typically want to have at least one or two that are complete in box. So that way I have something to showcase, so people who don't know what a complete in box would look like from games from that time period, I could actually showcase it like I am here. So the next one my son handed to me was Street Fighter II Special Champion Edition. This one I was actually lucky to find complete in box. The manual, though, the front page has been torn out. But other than that, I cannot complain on the price that was on this one. I only got this for $4. So I can't really complain. Of course, this was during a time period where Street Fighter was strictly just an arcade game. So putting one on console wasn't really a capability until the power of the Sega Genesis made that possible. Now, of course, this is a really awesome game. If you guys noticed in my intro video that there's a Hadouken in there, and that's actually from this game, actual game footage from this one. This was definitely one that I really wanted in my list of games to have, and I'm so glad I got it. This one was really a must-have for me, and I was just so happy to get it. Okay, so I just kind of looked it up a little bit, and yes, it actually the Street Fighter 2 Special Champion Edition. This was the third one that they made for the Sega Genesis. So it's the third one that they made. It was the last one, I think it was 1990 something when they made it. And the other two were made in the late 80s. So that's a good one to put in your collection. Definitely recommend this one. I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this video on that. I hope you guys really like the games that were picked out here today. And I will definitely do this another time. Alright? So if you like this video, go ahead and click that like button down below. If you haven't done already, go ahead and subscribe as well. And as always, remember 22 and stay classy, bros.
Continue.